Hello, I'm Rebecca Flaherty, and today we're going to be making this beautiful floral pattern together in Procreate. This video is part of a brand new series of 6 tutorials where I'm combining the Pattern Maker canvas with its seamless textures and then my original set of trailing floral templates, both of which you can get in my Etsy store. And I wanted to make a series to help you get even more fun and value out of your canvases and templates and show you how you can combine the two. I've also created, as a free add-on, a brand new set of floral stamp brushes, 6 colour palettes and a gold texture overlay, and you can get all of those for free inside the Pattern Maker's Toolkit. We're using the diamond method for these patterns, and because we're working with trailing floral templates, this series is more of an intermediate level. If you're brand new to the diamond method or haven't used these templates before, then check out my beginner series on those, which I'll link to in the description. Or for a deeper dive, I've got 2 Skillshare classes as well. If you don't yet have the Pattern Maker canvas or the trailing floral templates, don't worry, there's a free sample template in the Pattern Maker's Toolkit you can try, and you just need to open that in a 3600 pixel canvas and draw a rough diamond on there, and then you can follow along with us. So let's start by bringing in the Pattern Maker canvas first. So I'm going to go to Import and find the Pattern Maker canvas, and it's this one here. I'm going to use the Pattern Maker canvas updated. Then I'm going to go back out into the gallery, go to Import again, and then I'm going to go to the trailing floral canvases and I'm going to choose Template 1. Then the sketch layer will be hidden. You just need to turn that one on, and I'm going to tap on this layer here and tap Copy, come back out into the gallery, tap into this one, and on the bottom here in the sketch folder, tap on this layer at the bottom, swipe down with 3 fingers and tap Paste. And that's going to put that template in there for us, and then we can use that combined with these textures here. Let's close these off, and it's the sketch layer we want to start working in, and we'll start on this empty layer which is called a draw here first. And for the brushes, I'm going to use this one here. This is canvas 1, so we're going to use these 2 brushes here, the 1 file name on them. And I'm going to stamp this first one into all of these black circles, the large ones. So I'll just grab my palette for this one. It's one up here, and it's the canvas 1 palette I'm going to use for this. Just use any old colour for these for now. And I've got this brush size set at 21% for these. So I'm just going to stamp this into all of the large black circles. And then for the smaller flowers, I'm going to use this one, stamp those on there, and this is set to 6% if you want to use the same size. And I'm just going to stamp this into all of those like that. And it's just the black circles that we need to do. These blue ones will be made by duplicating these. And the reason we use the stamp brushes in the sketch layer and then trace over them, and the reason we don't use the stamp brushes in the final layer, is because rotating and resizing stuff can cause a slight loss of quality in Procreate. So by tracing over them in the final layer, we keep the textures crisp and clean at full resolution. So then we have all of the flowers marked out on here. Because I got the positions marked out for the stems, I'm not going to trace over these in the sketch layer, but if you wanted to change things up slightly different to how we've got them here, then I would recommend doing that in this layer as well. The next job to do is to offset this and put it into position around the edges. So I'm going to pinch it down with the sketch diamond, duplicate, tap transform, make sure we've got snapping and magnetics on, and then we're going to snap this down and to the left until we have those orange lines there, and you'll see these flowers up here are now filling these spots down there. And then we do that again, duplicate and bring it up and to the left until we have those orange lines. Duplicate again and do that into each of the corners until all of these parts around the outside are filled up with the flowers. Then you can pinch those top 4 together, and then I'm going to tap on that and tap invert so that we can see which ones we need to draw. In my case, I've used blue, so it'll be the blue flowers we need to trace over, and it's just all the ones in the black circles. Open up my pattern folder and turn that on, and I'm going to start tracing over the stems first, so we'll get those into position. And I'm going to use this colour here, and from the brush set I'm going to use the tracing crayon. Just see what thickness that is. That will do. So the first stem that we need to get in position is this one here, because it crosses over the line. I do that. You can see this one is the one that we need to join up. So let's draw this one in first. So I'm going to trace over this as carefully as I can, trying to line it up with down there. And then we also need to do this one. It joins up here, which is the same place as down there. So I'm going to start this flower and draw a continual line coming down to there. I might turn it this way so I can zoom in a bit more, but still have all of that on view. And then we want to bring these up there so that we can make sure they're joined up properly. So I'm going to put a mark in the corners of this layer, up there and down there. Then swipe and duplicate, tap transform, and we will do this one first. So I'm going to bring it down and snap it into that corner. If I bring it up a bit, you can see that snapped into place down there. And then if we zoom in, you can see this is where it lines up. And it kind of looks okay, but I think I probably could curve this in a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to this layer here, grab my eraser, just erase that line back a bit, and then making sure you're definitely on this layer, just go back and you can really zoom in here. Blend that line in there. So that's that part done. So then we can zoom in down here, and that again is pretty well blended in, but I will just make sure I'm on that bottom layer again, erase this up a little bit and just blend this in down there. So there we go, we've got those continual trailing lines now. Once those two are in place, we can get rid of this top one and fill in all of the other leaves now. And then I'm going to use the smaller brush to do these thinner stems. And then once all of those are traced in, I'm going to use Colour Drop to fill all the leaves in. There we go, so once all the leaves are in, we can then start to put the flowers on. These leaves here, although I haven't done those pink ones, we're going to do those later in our extra folder. So I'm going to add a layer above. I'm going to grab this almost white colour, and I'm going to start with these little petals here on these flowers. So I'm just going to trace these in. And rather than filling all of those later, I think I'm just going to colour over those because I think that will be easier. There are loads of these, and this step is going to take a while, but that's kind of the thing I like about these canvases, is it is just like a colouring book and you don't have to think too much. Everything's in the right place and it is just a case of tracing, and it is a nice cozy relaxing activity to do. So take as long as you need over these steps. That part takes a while, doesn't it? And then every time you think you're done, you zoom out and see another little spot somewhere else that needs doing. But I think I have all of those things in now. So I'm going to put the middles into those flowers now. I'm going to add a layer above this, and from the drawing set that comes with the Pattern Maker canvas, I'm going to grab the mini dot brush, just see what kind of size this is to start with. A little bit big. Let's make it this pink colour. I'm going to go for about that size, and I'm going to change some of the settings on this. So I'm going to tap on this little arrow here, and on the color dynamics, I'm going to go to the stamp color jitter and take secondary color up to 50%. Tap up here. I'll need to go onto the disc to do this. Tap on this secondary color there, make that blue, go back onto the pink one, and then you'll find that this switches between those two colors like that. So let's clear this layer, and then I'm going to put one of these little dots on each of these like that, and we'll get a color that falls somewhere between these two colors. Then I'm going to add another layer above that, and we'll work on these flowers now. So let's go back to the tracing crayon, and I'll leave it in this pink color. I'm just going to trace over all of these now. And then what I want to do is put a bit of variation in colour on these, the same we did with these, the dots in the middle of here. And in the Pattern Maker's Toolkit, there is a brush set called the Summer Icons brush set, and it's got this colour changer brush in there. And still with these two primary and secondary colours, what I'm going to do is alpha lock this layer and just scribble over these with that brush, and you'll get a variation in colours there between that blue and pink. If you want to leave some of them just that pure pink colour, you could not scribble over them, and if you want to kind of vary the colours up a bit more, say you want this one to be a bit more purpley, you could just keep going over this one until you get a colour that you more like a bit more. It is kind of random, so just keep going over these until you have a layout of colours that you like. I think I'm gonna stick with those. I think I might change the colour of this one, because if we think about this one, and this one, it's going to be a row of pink, so I might make this one more of a bluey colour or a purpley colour. That would do. So I'm going to stick with those as the colours that I've chosen. I'm going to add a layer above, and I'll just use this dark colour for this next part. Go back to my brush set up here, and then the next part I want to be in gold, so I'm going to bring in the gold texture, which you can also find in the Pattern Maker's Toolkit. So I'm going to go to my actions, I'm going to add, and I'm going to insert a photo. So I've saved this one to my camera roll, and this one is a seamless gold texture. I'm going to add a layer underneath, tap on this layer and clip it to that layer below, and then making sure I'm on this layer underneath, I can then draw with this nice gold texture like that. So I'm going to hold, tap, and that will snap to a circle, and then I can fill those in like that. Then I'm going to grab the line detail brush. This layer here, I'm going to make this the blend mode on that linear burn so that I can see the lines underneath. And then on this layer here, I'm going to add some of these line details in. And then a thing I want to also add while I'm on this layer is some little dots to fill in the spaces around the pattern. So I'm going to go back to this mini dot brush and make it a little bit smaller than I used it for these centers, and just add some little random dots in these spaces around here. And then all that we need to do now is this pink bit on the sides. So to put that in, I'll turn off the textures first. Swipe down with 3 fingers and copy all. Turn the extra group on. Tap on this layer here, swipe down and paste. Then I'm going to duplicate this layer, tap transform, and we'll bring half of it over to this side, snapping it to the edge there, and then this one will snap over to this edge. And if we zoom in there, you can see that's all nicely lined up, so we know we're good there. Pinch those together, can turn the textures back on now, add a layer, and we can carry on tracing this in. It would be easier if we had this flower in and it is that one there. So what we can do is duplicate this one, tap transform and snap it halfway down and halfway across like that, and then duplicate again, tap transform, snap it halfway down and halfway across like that, and then you can see we've got this line here to merge in with, so we can pinch all of those three together. And then on this layer here that we added, and it was these ones here that we need to put in, they're blue now because we brought the bits down from the top, but it's these ones here we need to do. We can just add those leaves in. So I can start coming out from here to merge in with those. What I might do is start up here actually, because it's easier to draw and blend into that, and then I can just add the leaves in there like that. There we go, and that's all we need to do for the extra group on this one. So I'm going to duplicate this layer as it's just one bit of it and bring that above and out of my layers group. Then I can hide that extra group. I can also hide the sketch at this point. On my pattern group, I can turn the marker off and change the blend mode on this back to normal. And then this pattern group, I'm going to duplicate that and flatten the copy of it. And then we can bring it up there and hide all of this layers group. And then we're ready to put the bit from the extra group back on the edges now. So on this layer here, draw marks the same as these, going off the corners, duplicate, tap transform, snap half of it over to this side until you see those orange lines there, and then this one, drag and snap over there as well. Then you can pinch those two leaves on the edges, pinch those together, grab your eraser and erase those bits in the middle. Then you can merge it down with your pattern layer underneath there, and we've already got these marks on the corners there, and I've just spotted I missed out the sparkly bits on there, so rather than skip over that and pretend it didn't happen, I'll show you how to quickly and easily fix that. So I'm going to undo before I merge those bits. I'll get rid of this layer. Still got that there, I can keep that. I'll turn my layers back on, go back into the pattern, go back onto this layer, make sure I've got the right brush, it's the line details, and we can just add those back in again, because mistakes happen, but hopefully they're not too hard to fix. So we just duplicate and flatten this group again, bring it up to the top, turn our layers off again. Then we need to turn this layer on and we can pinch those together. And as I was saying, we've already got these marks on the corner there. If you don't have those on at this point, draw two marks going off the corners, duplicate, tap transform, snap this down and to the left, duplicate the bottom one and snap it up and into the corner. And this is exactly the same as we were doing in our sketch layer. Duplicate the bottom one again and snap it over to this corner, and then same again with this last one, and then you can pinch the top four together. I'll just hide the bottom one and the layers. You need to rub out, erase those, and then on this one you need to erase those marks on the corners there. Then we can put these both back on and pinch those together. And then one last thing to do, I'm going to change my background colour to this one here, because that's the lovely colour that I want to use in this, and that is our finished tile. And the next job is to make sure that this is tiling properly. So to do that, we're going to swipe down with 3 fingers and copy all, come right up to the top here and paste. Then underneath, I'm going to add a layer and just fill it with white. Then I'm going to tap onto this one, tap transform. I've got bicubic as my interpolation method, snapping on, and I'm going to drag this up to the middle there and you'll see 1800 pixels. Duplicate, tap transform and snap this one over to the side, and then before you merge those together, just zoom in here to the seam and show and hide that so you can see where it is, and then just pan up and down, make sure that all your motifs line up and that you don't have a white line in there. If there was a gap in the pattern, this white would show through. Then you can pinch those together, duplicate, tap transform again, snap this to the bottom, and then you can test the top and bottom seam by zooming in and checking along there. Then you can pinch those together, and that is your finished pattern tile. Don't forget you can find the free stamps and palettes in the Pattern Makers Toolkit, and members also get 10% off everything in my Etsy store. The Pattern Makers Toolkit is kind of like a free Patreon. You'll get a monthly email with creative prompts, seasonal colour palettes, early access to some of my YouTube videos, 10% off in my Etsy store, and a full library of free pattern making resources. It's just 1 email a month, no spam, and just goodies to help you stay creative. If you'd like to dive even deeper into surface pattern design, check out my Skillshare classes. New members get 1 month free with the link below. And finally, don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube for your weekly dose of pattern making fun. Have fun, stay creative, and I will see you soon.